Okay. So are you all there? Hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think we're done with consumer and labor protection, right? Consumer legislation and labor legislation. And we went through those 6 government policies that might have an impact on the performance of businesses by regulating the rules and regulations with respect to the workers. And then they have quite a few regulations that have a direct impact on consumers. So these are consumer protection laws and labor laws. And we went through those 6, in fact, 8 different policies in this context. Then it was international trade that we were discussing. All those restrictions and all those government policies that are used for regulating the imports and exports across international borders. And the first one that we tried to discuss it was tariff. Tariff is the import duty, okay, which is levied whenever something is brought into the country. And then there are 2 types of tariffs. There's ad valorem tariff and specific tariff. Ad valorem is calculated in terms of price, percentage of price. And we also learned that specific tariff is the one that is calculated on the basis of weight or quantity. And the basic objective is to generate revenue and protect the domestic industry. Quota ki baat bhi ho gayi thi. There could be an import quota or an export quota, a physical limitation, and both have their own reasons. So we'll continue with this. Number 3 is embargo. The third restriction on international trade, that's embargo. So regarding embargo, you should remember that embargo is the most severe trade restriction. Embargo is the toughest trade restriction that can possibly be imposed by any government. Embargo. And what is an embargo? It is an absolute ban on trading. Embargo is an absolute ban on trading with another country. Okay? It is an absolute ban, an absolute restriction on trading with another country. That's called an embargo. That, the government decides that there'll be absolutely no trade with this particular country. No import, no export. Absolute ban on trading with another country. And that is why we say the embargo is the toughest possible trade restriction that can be imposed. ठीक है, इसका जो impact है, it could be devastating for a country. ठीक है, because बात यह है कि in today's world, it is impossible to survive without having an interaction with other countries. ठीक है, you can't survive. You have to import something, you have to export something. You can't live in isolation in today's world. ठीक है, so embargo means forcing a country to live in isolation. Placing a ban, a complete ban on trading with another country. That's what embargo is all about. A severe trade restriction. ठीक है? अच्छा, अब needless to say, what kind of country do you think would place an embargo on other countries? Obviously a country which is influential, a country which is, strong in economic terms, or maybe militarily also. ठीक है? Embargo
Does
will...
North Korea count here?
North Korea is the victim here, actually. Yeah, the Americans, they have placed an embargo on North Korea. Look, America, the US, they are the embargo specialists because it's obviously the superpower, the strongest economy, and in their military might, they've used that over the years to pressurize other countries. So you pressurize a country in two ways. Either you can simply invade that country. Take it. This is what the Americans have been doing. Launch a proper attack, for instance. Take it like Vietnam. Or you place an embargo on that country. And remember, the effects of embargo are more devastating than those of a war. Take it, destroys a country, embargo, because you can't survive without interacting with other countries. Over the years, we can quote examples. The Americans, they placed an embargo, like you said, on North Korea. ठीक है, Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, Libya. ठीक है, whenever they were unhappy with the country, they expressed their displeasure either through war or through an embargo. अब बात यह है कि, when the Americans place an embargo, their allies, the Europeans, the British, they also follow them. ठीक है, so in this way, the country actually is isolated. Because it's not just the Americans, the allies will also, follow in their footsteps. So that is why we say that embargo is a severe trade restriction. It is devastating for a country, the country which is affected because of this. I'll quote, there's so many examples. I just mentioned Libya here. That country and their president a few years back, Colonel Gaddafi, he was a great rival. He always opposed the American policies. He was a known figure, Colonel Gaddafi, jiske naam pe we have this stadium also in Lahore, Gaddafi Stadium. So, he was known for his anti-US policies. But once the Americans placed an embargo on Libya, within a few months' time, Colonel Gaddafi was down on his knees and he had to give in because there was a lot of pressure. You can't survive like that. And then they had to show flexibility in accordance with what the Americans wanted. So embargo is tough and it will always be placed by a country. And it is safe to state, embargo is used for political reasons. ये कोई ज़रूरी नहीं कि बड़ा कोई genuine reason हो. You will place an embargo. Usually this is what we've seen. Countries place an embargo on other countries, usually because of political reasons. They're unhappy with them because of their policies. So just to exert pressure on them, they'll do that. Okay? And remember, because when I'm marking the papers, I often come across this line, that Pakistan has placed an embargo on India. No, that is a little irrelevant. Okay? Technically, consistently, we have placed an embargo, obviously, on Israel. We don't interact with Israel because we don't recognize Israel. But there has been fluctuation in our trade relations with India. So do not use the word embargo there because obviously there has been a lot of fluctuation and officially we have not announced that. Achha. So that's embargo. So as far as the restrictions on international trade are concerned, so far we've tried to learn what tariff means, what quota is, okay, and what the term embargo means. Okay, all these trade restrictions on international trade, they help governments to regulate international trade, in such a way that it benefits them. Number four is called foreign exchange control. The fourth restriction on international trade is called foreign exchange control. That is restriction number 4. Foreign exchange control. All right. Okay. Now, you will often come across a word, undesirable. You know, when you go through this foreign exchange control and you're studying this, kahin pe you have your written material, books, etc. You will often find a word, undesirable. You know, experts believe that foreign exchange control is an undesirable trade restriction. Okay, it's an undesirable trade restriction, meaning the experts, they do not support foreign exchange control. Yani you can say this should be used as a last resort only. If there's no other option left, then you can switch to foreign exchange control. Not otherwise, because it has a huge negative impact. Foreign exchange control. Okay, that is why they use the word undesirable. Okay, so as far as foreign exchange control is concerned, foreign exchange control, this particular law, it demands that it is illegal for an individual. It is illegal for an individual in any country, in a particular country, to have foreign currency in his possession. Okay, what does it say? Foreign exchange control, that it is not allowed, it is illegal for an individual, for a citizen of a country, to have foreign currency in his personal possession. ठीक है, ये बात समझ में आ रही है? कि this foreign currency is something that can be owned and possessed by the government alone. This law says that the people in that country, the citizens, they're not allowed to hold foreign currency. Okay, they're only allowed to have their own currency in their possession. They can't have, like in Pakistan, if this law is enforced. Currently, we don't have this law here, but in case this law is enforced here, then it will be illegal for a Pakistani to have a dollar account or an account in pounds or dirhams or any other currency. Then we will be allowed to have an account in our own currency only, if this restriction is imposed. Okay, this is what foreign exchange control is all about. Okay, the government decides that nobody in the country is allowed to own foreign currency. Okay, that's the first step. Secondly, we need to understand.
Sir, but how bad could the situation be to impose this?
Yes, what could be the possible reason for this? And why do we say that it is undesirable? As far as the reason is concerned, any government that uses foreign exchange control has basically conveyed the message to everyone that we have failed in terms of governance. We have wasted all our resources. We don't have any foreign reserves in our possession. The government says, the government or the state doesn't have any foreign currency, any dollars, any pounds. So they start exploiting, or they start pressurizing the public for this. Like in Pakistan, though we don't have this law right now, but back in 90s, the situation was really, really bad, late 90s. And, the government, like I said, they mismanaged the resources. And suddenly they realized that foreign reserves in the state bank, they have dropped to as low as $0.5 billion only. Suddenly the government realized that we have wasted everything, we've spent everything, and only $500 million left, which is nothing for a state. For a country, $500 million is nothing. So overnight they decided this is a critical situation. Doesn't matter if we have failed, the public is there to pressurize. So overnight they decided, okay, today onwards, we have foreign exchange control in Pakistan. So all the people who had their foreign currency accounts in numerous banks, they were frozen. Okay, the government decided, we are going to freeze those accounts. Okay, because we don't have anything in our national exchequer, जिसको कौमी खजाना कहते हैं, खाली हो गया. So whatever belongs to the public, the government decides, okay, we have basically taken over that. Those foreign currency accounts, they actually froze those accounts. Okay, and this was disastrous. Because you open an account with the bank, and the next thing you know is that the government says, this belongs to me. And the government decided, if you want your money back, if you want your foreign currency back, here's the rate at which you can convert it back into rupees. And it was a bad rate. Maybe the rate was around 65, 68 rupees a dollar. And the government said, if you want it back, you can have it back for 46 rupees a dollar. If you're willing to bear these losses, you can have your money back in rupees. The लोगों की जो savings थी, everything, it was frozen by the government. Any government that uses foreign exchange control, this reflects poorly on the governance. इसका पता ये चलता है कि they mismanage the resources, and now they want the public to pay a price. So it is undesirable, only as a last resort. और ये बताओ undesirable क्यों है? देखो, number one, you're discouraging exporters. If you enforce this law, you're discouraging exporters. यही बात है ना, when you export something, you earn foreign exchange. But the government says, the foreign exchange that you're earning, you have to hand that over to us. And we will convert it into rupees, and then you can have that amount. Maybe the exporter, he is not happy with this. He doesn't want his dollars and his pounds to be converted into rupees. Especially if your currency is weak, you would like to hold on to that foreign currency. So you are discouraging exporters. अब वो क्या करेंगे? They will try to use, unfair means for bringing that currency in. वही वाली बात हो जाएगी. They will try to hide their transactions from the government. And the second drawback is, like I just explained, it is devastating for the banking sector of the country. Devastating for the banking sector of the country. Okay, I just quoted an example from our own country. When this happened in late 90s, when the government froze all those accounts, people lost confidence in our banking system. They were scared to put their money in the bank afterwards. If you open an account with the bank, what is the guarantee that the government won't take over? So your confidence in the banking system of the country is shattered. So you're destroying the banking system also, and you're discouraging exporters also. So this is one trade restriction that is undesirable. It should be avoided and can be used only as a last resort, like I just explained. Okay, foreign exchange. Number 5 pe aa jao, that is dumping. Restriction on international trade, number 5, dumping. Okay. Now the dumping specialist is China. Like I explained, embargo specialist is the US. China is the dumping specialist. Okay? And what does this mean? Dumping. Dumping means that a country decides to capture the market. A country decides to capture the market of another country. Okay, what is dumping? This is a policy with the help of which a country decides to capture the market of another country by offering their products for sale at a very, very low price. I repeat, dumping means a government, a country, it decides to capture the market of another country. How? By offering its products for sale at a very, very low price in that country. the price might be so low that it might even be below the cost price. Yani they will start selling their goods at such a low price in another country that the customers will find those goods irresistible and everyone will start buying those. Like I said, this is what China does. China is known for this. The strategy hoti hai ki, they try to manufacture 3 versions of each product, different quality standards. ठीक है, वो क्या करते हैं कि if they want to capture the market of another country, they will offer their inexpensive products in that country and increase their market share very, very quickly. Because, the majority is price conscious. This is how China operates. पूरी दुनिया की जो markets हैं, they're flooded with Chinese products. Not only Pakistan, everywhere in the world we find Chinese products. Because they've managed to adopt a strategy, dumping. They reduce their profit margin. They sell the product at a very low price. Apne mulk mein, the factors of production are cheap. They enjoy economies of scale. So when the products are lower in price, automatically the market share will increase. And the only country that the Americans are scared of, those are the Chinese. There's, as we know, recently in the last few months, we've seen that there has been a trade war between the US and China. Because US, they have observed that in the markets, everywhere they find Chinese products.
Especially on technology.
And they are, the Chinese, they have grown in the last few decades. That's tremendous economically in military terms, otherwise, militarily. So, and you'll be surprised, the Americans, they have actually, just to counter the Chinese, they have enforced some anti-dumping policies. Dumping to hai na, sell your product at a very low price in another country so that you capture the market of that country and you destroy competition. That's dumping. So what have the Americans done? They came up with some anti-dumping laws. Anti-dumping means that they have decided, they have announced, this is the minimum that you can charge. Isse kam price charge nahi ho sakti. Because they know if that restriction is not there, the Chinese might reduce the price even further and the American industries will be destroyed. So these are anti-dumping laws. They set a low limit to the price. So as a result of the strategy, competition is destroyed. Competitors, they have to leave the market. They can't withstand the pressure. Dumping, it's a highly aggressive policy. And a company which is very, very strong, only such a country can afford this. A company which has financial strength. What Chinese karte hai, kehte hain, acha chalo, let's offer our products for sale in this country. And for the first 5 years, we will bear losses. Doesn't matter if we are not making any profit. We manufacture this chair for 10 rupees. We'll sell it for 9. Doesn't matter if there's loss. So for the first few years, they will bear losses. They will destroy competition. And 6th year onwards, they will start making profit. They will increase the market share. They might increase the price slightly. There'll be economies of scale. This is what Zhong has done. Zhong is also a Chinese company. This is what they've done. For the first few years, they made nothing. But with the passage of time, they've increased their market share. And now they have started generating profits. And they're doing well also. So this is an aggressive strategy, and you have to be financially very, very strong to bear those losses in the initial years. That's dumping. And the last restriction on international trade, that is called subsidies. The last one is called subsidies. The last restriction on international trade, that is subsidies. That's number 6. As we all know, a subsidy is an incentive, right? It's an incentive. It's a form of help, assistance. So subsidies, these are incentives which are offered by the government to the business community, right? in the shape of tax exemption, interest-free loans, grants, cheap raw material, etc., subsidies. Okay? But the point that you need to understand is that when the government offers subsidies to the domestic industry, indirectly, they're imposing a restriction on their foreign rivals. Okay? Do we understand this point? If the government is offering subsidies to the domestic industry, if the government offers subsidies to the domestic industry, to the local industry, indirectly, they are imposing a restriction on their foreign rivals. You know the way we discuss tariffs, remember? Okay, when you impose a tax on imports, indirectly, you're helping out your domestic industry. The same is the case with all the subsidies. Okay, the governments all over the world, just to strengthen their own industries, they will offer them subsidies. And as a result of these subsidies, these incentives, their foreign rivals, their foreign competitors, they'll be in trouble. They will find it hard to compete against these companies because the government is supporting them through tax exemption and interest-free loans, etc. So in a way, this also falls under restrictions on international trade. So we're done with this topic, international trade. ठीक हो गया? अगला शुरू करते हैं. The next topic, that is legal structures. Legal structures. Okay, this is after international trade. Legal structures in section 1, that's our next topic. In fact, one of the legal structures we have already discussed as a separate topic also. Remember, initially, हमने franchising discuss किया था. Franchising is also a legal structure, लेकिन ये कि that's a separate topic also. Look, legal structure means types of business organizations, types of businesses. Okay, the term legal structure means types of businesses, types of business organizations, legal structure. Okay, what are the rules and regulations that apply? Okay, what are the features of that particular business organization? Wo legal structure. So franchising, the way we've discussed franchising in detail, that is one legal structure. So legal structures, first of all, the simplest and the oldest legal structure or the oldest form of business is the sole proprietorship. Okay, number one कर लो, sole proprietorship. Franchising तो हमने separately discuss कर ही लिया. Sole proprietorship या sole tradership, the simplest form of business. Legal structure means type of business. So the simplest type of business, the simplest legal structure, and the oldest also, that is called a sole proprietorship or a sole tradership. Sole proprietorship or sole tradership. All right. So sole proprietorship, as the name suggests, sole is single. This is a legal structure. देखो इसमें there are three terms that you have to use in the definition. बहुत ज़्यादा definition आती है इसकी. But there are three words that have to be used if you want to score full marks in this. So sole proprietorship is a legal structure in which there is a single owner. Okay, there's one owner, there is a single owner. Okay, all these small businesses, small outlets, these are sole proprietorships. So if the first feature is there's a single owner. Secondly, it is an unincorporated business. There's a single owner, and it is, I'll explain what the term means. It is an unincorporated business. There's a single owner, and it is an unincorporated business. Unincorporated business with an unlimited liability. So what are the key features? Sole proprietorship, single owner, unincorporated business, unlimited liability. Single owner, unincorporated business, unlimited liability. These are three key features as far as a sole proprietorship is concerned. All right, let's see. So single owner is single owner. There's just one owner who runs the show. The term unincorporated means that it's an unregistered business. Unincorporated. Dekho, unregistered, unincorporated means that a sole proprietorship has no separate legal identity. A sole proprietorship has no separate legal identity. It has no separate legal identity. Okay? Meaning that in the eyes of the law, there's no difference between the owner and the business. Okay? You can't draw a line between the owner and the business in case of sole proprietorship. It's called unincorporated. Yani ki if the owner dies, in the eyes of the law, the business also dies. The business also expires. You can't differentiate between the owner and the business. That is unincorporated. Okay? There's a lack of continuity. The owner goes, the business goes. So technically, isko kehte hain unincorporated business. And the third point was unlimited liability. Unlimited liability, another technical term which is going to be used repeatedly. Unlimited liability means that the responsibility to pay off loans, liability, debts, the responsibility to pay off debts, the responsibility to pay off loans is entirely on the shoulders of the sole proprietor. Okay? And if he defaults, unlimited liability means if a debtor defaults, somebody who has borrowed money, if he defaults, samajh liyo na, he's unable to repay the loan. So if he defaults, the creditor has the right, creditor hai the bank. So if the debtor defaults, the creditor has the right to take over his personal assets and belongings to recover his loan. ठीक है, जो bank है, the creditor, he has the right to confiscate, to take over the personal assets and belongings of the sole proprietor if he defaults. This is called unlimited liability. You know, the sole proprietor can't say, you know, this is my personal car, this is my personal house. You can't take over this. No. The bank legally has the right. If the sole proprietor defaults, the responsibility to pay off loans is totally on his shoulders. And even if the bank has to take over his personal assets and belongings, they will do that. So the liability is unlimited. Yani the risk factor is very, very high. Unlimited liability because isme you can't draw a line between the owner and the business. Maine kaha na, law ke mutabik they are one. Achha, now quickly, as per syllabus, the requirement is you need to have an idea about 2 advantages and 2 drawbacks of sole proprietorship. Bilkul simple hai. Advantages. Number 1, flexibility in decision making. A sole proprietor can take his own decisions. There are no partners. There's a high degree of flexibility. He can do whatever he wants to. If he wants to, you know, change the nature of the business, the price, the quality, he can do whatever he wants to, location. So flexibility is advantage number 1. He doesn't need the consent of his partners. And advantage number 2 in sole proprietorship, there are no technical or legal formalities involved. But it is very simple to form a sole proprietorship and very simple to dissolve it also. So there are no major technical or legal formalities involved in the formation. Okay? No major technical or legal formalities involved in the formation of a sole proprietorship or in the dissolution, in dissolving the sole proprietorship. If you want to wrap it up, if you want to wind up your business, if you want to dissolve it, you can do that easily. If you want to form a sole proprietorship, you can do that easily. Like I said, you just need two advantages, two drawbacks, but to be on the safe side, you can add one more. और वो है कि profit is not shared. Obviously, in a sole proprietorship, whatever you earn, it belongs totally to the sole proprietor. Whatever you earn, it goes to the sole proprietor. He doesn't have to share his profit with anyone. Now the drawbacks. Remember, the most important drawback of being a sole proprietor is unlimited liability. Always keep in mind, the most significant drawback, the most significant disadvantage of sole proprietorship is unlimited liability. I just explained what that is. Okay, if he defaults, if he doesn't pay off the loan, he can easily lose his personal assets and belongings to the creditor. So risk factor is very, very high. Unlimited liability, मैं इसलिए इस पे इतना emphasize कर रहा हूँ because this is a very commonly asked question. अक्सर पूछते हैं वो, give one drawback. So when they want you to give one drawback only, then always choose unlimited liability. All the other drawbacks are also fine. But, you know, the methodology is, you know, CIE, when they mark your papers, they give importance to quality also. So it is categorically mentioned there, in the examiner's report also, if they want you to give one drawback of sole proprietorship, it has to be unlimited liability. There are other drawbacks, but you will lose one mark. So unlimited liability is the biggest drawback. Number two could be lack of capital. Obviously, there's a single owner. Why do people form partnerships? Because there's a lack of capital. So that is the drawback associated with a sole proprietor, that there's a lack of capital, lack of investment, financial weakness, that could be a drawback. And number three could be losses cannot be shared. If he loses money, he has to bear the brunt. He has to bear the loss. Losses can't be shared. So that's, and of course, you know, he's overworked also, everything, but losses can't be shared. That is another drawback of having a sole proprietorship.
Sir, did Coca-Cola initially start as a sole proprietorship?
Coke was a partnership initially, and there were just two individuals. It was an extremely small affair, a very small business. Magar, initially there were two individuals. It was a tiny partnership. And then, of course, they managed to run the business in such a way that we all know it is one of the largest companies in the world at present. But it was a very small affair in the beginning. And in fact, our next legal structure is also partnership. Take a partnership ki main definition bata deta hu, considering the time constraints. Let's define the term quickly, partnership, and we can discuss the advantages and drawbacks next time. So a partnership hai, that is legal structure number 2. This is a legal structure in which 2 to 20 individuals. There were 2 to 20 individuals. In a partnership, 2 to 20 individuals join hands. It is a legal structure in which 2 to 20 individuals join hands. 2 to 20 individuals combine their resources and they run the business under unified control. Ye partnership hoti hai na, according to the British law, 2 to 20 individuals, they join hands or combine their resources and they decide to run the business under joint control, under unified control. 2 to 20 individuals, that's a partnership. And the two features that we pointed out in sole proprietorship, those two characteristics are relevant to partnership also. Which two features? Unlimited liability and unincorporated business. So remember this, 2 to 20 individuals run the business together. And a partnership also typically, like sole proprietorship, has an unlimited liability and it is an unincorporated business. Remember this is common between partnership and sole proprietorship. Unincorporated business, there's a lack of continuity. If a partner dies, the business comes to an end, then a new partnership deed is needed. There's a lack of continuity. It's an unincorporated business, unregistered business, and it has an unlimited liability as well. Yani ki if the business defaults, the creditor has the right to confiscate the personal belongings of the partners to recover their debt. So unlimited liability, unincorporated will be mentioned here too. And the first sentence will be different. The 2 to 20 individuals to decide to run the business together. We're supposed to give 2 advantages and 2 drawbacks of partnerships, but we will do that next time. All right?
Yes,
This is it. Allah Hafiz.
hello, sir.